Hello, I'm Sophie Ellis-Bextor and I'm best known for being a singer-songwriter, but I'm also mother to 5 boys, including a teenager. So I was really excited to team up with health insurers BUPA to find out about the specific challenges that have been faced by teenagers during this last 9 months, and also how parents like me can help support our teenagers so they get back to their version of normal. Well, now I'm lucky enough to be talking to Nikki Lilly, who has come here to be a voice of a generation, really. Nikki is 16 and I want to find out from her, how do you think you and your friends have found it? Has it been peaceful? Has it been momentous? Has it been scary?
It was definitely scary at the beginning because there was so much uncertainty, and I think probably everyone felt the same way. Me and my friends would do Zoom calls, and it really helped us having a group chat where we could all speak together because it felt like a proper support group almost. A lot of my generation have grown up this year, I feel like, because of everything going on. But I also think we've grown up in a lot of ways with, our perspective on lots of different situations. Yeah. The little things, the importance of living in the moment and not worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow, and just making the most of what you have and who you have in your life. But I think it's with, parents, if they can, just really trying their best to basically communicate to their kids that they are there for them and they do have time for them. But even when they feel like their kids are doing okay, it's just instilling that idea in them. So when they are struggling, in the back of their head, they know that, mum or my dad or my guardian does have time for me. I can go to them, instead of kind of thinking, they're stressed, I'm not going to stress them out anymore. I'm not going to burden them with how I'm feeling. How I'm feeling doesn't matter, because it does.
So I'm joined by Dr. Lucy Foulkes, who is a teen psychologist. Lucy, I wanted to talk to you about the effects of the pandemic, in particular, what it feels like when you've missed out on these really big milestones that usually happen during your teenage years.
A year or 6 months for a teenager is a lot longer than a year or 6 months for an adult. And, so much happens in those months that it's not just a case of, we'll just do it again next year. Leaving school or starting university, obviously they have been able to do a version of those things, but not the version they might have wanted.
And also, I didn't realise what's happening neurologically, how that side of things works for your teenage years.
Adolescence is such a period of change. So it's a period of change on the outside world, and it's a period of change in terms of your hormones and your brain development. And a lot of what we might previously have just put down to hormones, even though hormones are still important, are actually the kind of teenage typical behaviours like mood swings or peer pressure or risk taking actually can be partly explained by what's happening in their brain.
Being a teenager is really hard. Raising a teenager is really hard.
We know that development continues right through the teenage years and well into the 20s and sometimes even the 30s. Obviously, pandemic has been an exceptional, unusual source of stress. But throughout life, there's going to be periods of stress and difficulty in all different shapes and sizes. And, for someone to ask you how you are and to not have expectations of how you're supposed to be feeling or not try and fix it, it's very tempting to jump in with solutions. When actually a lot of time we just want space to talk about what's happening and to have those experiences and those feelings validated and recognised.
So now I'm going to be talking to Pablo Vanderville, who is a psychiatrist and clinical director for mental health at BUPA. How, as a parent, can you tell the difference between a sort of normal teenage behaviour and when it's actually something you should be a bit more concerned about?
When we think about the psychological symptoms, we're kind of thinking about a lowering in mood, more irritability, loss of interest, social withdrawal, those kind of things. When we think about the sort of more biological symptoms, we're kind of thinking about sleep disturbance, changes in appetite, a lot of the time loss of appetite, poor concentration. And of course, a lot of that can well be part of normal teenagers' behavior. But if it becomes persistent, if it sort of goes on day after day after day into weeks on end, then I think it might be something more than just teenager behavior.
If you are worried, let's say your young person says that they're feeling really very low, what can you do next? Where can you turn for help?
Like with anything in health, the quicker you treat something or the quicker you address something, the better the prognosis is likely to be. Now, GPs are often a very good first port of call, and they're very familiar about mental health and mental well-being. But there's also an awful lot of good information available online, for example. And I know that on the BUPA website, there's a mental health hub.
If you're feeling depressed and it's in response to a big event like what we've had this year, it can presumably be a little bit difficult sometimes to unpick the emotions that are just a normal response.
COVID restrictions and all that can be understandable why someone is feeling low and so forth, but that still can progress to somebody becoming depressed. So the mere fact that you can sort of pinpoint this is what caused it doesn't mean that you don't have the condition.
Oh, mental health affects us all in so many different ways, and we're only really just starting to understand how this pandemic has affected our own mental well-being. That first conversation is the first and a small step to getting the child the help and support they need, and there is support out there for you too. If you head to BUPA, you can see lots of material online to help you, and also the mental health charity Mind has got lots of support. So don't worry, you're doing the right thing. Trust your instincts, have that conversation, and help is at hand.